Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about Windows emulation on Android with Winlator, and we talked about Winlator yesterday when they released version 2.0. And if you take a look at their GitHub today, I only see version 1.1. To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure as to what's going on here. Maybe there's a bug with the release, but if that was the case, normally they keep the release up and then issue a bug fix release, so I can't quite tell you. Now, some people have tried out Winlator 2.0 and have noticed some new games are working, like Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 7, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So with that being said, there are some copies of Winlator version 2.0 floating around out there if you really wanted to get your hands on one, but I will recommend just waiting into the next Winlator release. And speaking about releases, next up we're talking about Raspberry Pi OS, which just got a brand new update, the first one since May. It's now using Debian version 12 Bookworm as its base, and still using Linux kernel version 6.1. If you want to see the full changelog for this one, I'll drop a link to it in the description below and feel free to check it out. In my opinion, the big changes here are the fact that the Raspberry Pi 4 and 5 will now be using Wayland. Older Raspberry Pis will still use X11. And Pulse Audio is no longer the default audio backend, it's now Pipewire. And Firefox is being included in addition to Chromium. And speaking about Debian, next up we're talking about Sparky Linux, which just got a brand new release. They've upgraded their kernel to Linux 6.5. And interestingly enough here, they've also added the Raspberry Pi imager to all of their releases. Moving on, and we're talking about indie smash hit Dave the Diver, which just got a brand new free update. I'll try not to spoil anything here, so I'll drop a link to the full update in the description below and feel free to check it out. At a high level here, there's a new story and submissions, new lobsters and crab traps, auto farming, a new event boss, a new special customer, wandering merchant, new night species, additional contents, and more. Next up, we're talking about Proton, and Proton Experimental just got a brand new update. At a high level here, they fixed multiplayer NASCAR Heat 5, they fixed issues for online services in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. They fixed Resident Evil 4 separate ways crashing on AMD GPUs. They fixed Elite Dangerous crashing when opening external links. They fixed audio issues when playing intro videos in Airborne Kingdom. And they fixed Halo Infinite crashes on SteamOS beta and main version. Next up, we're talking about RetroArch, and this one is very interesting. You can now use your standalone emulators in RetroArch and receive the benefits of shaders and overlays on just about any standalone emulator. Now, I am almost positive we've talked about this one before. It was released back in February, and it's the WindowCast Core. The last update to this one was in August of this year. If you wanted to learn more about this one, I'll drop a link to it in the description below and feel free to check it out. At a high level here, you can open an emulator like Dolphin, RPCS3, or PCSX2, and then run it through WindowCast to take advantage of RetroArch's shader stack. Next up, we're talking about a brand new-ish Atari 8-bit game. It's called Psyclotron, and it was unreleased since 1985 and has now been released. I'll drop a link to the YouTube video in the description below and feel free to check it out. There are some helpful links there. It appears Psyclotron was discovered back in 2005 and is a fast-paced shooting game similar to Robotron. And speaking about Atari, this one is a little bit weird but also kind of cool. Apparently Atari wants to create a brand new Bubsy game. And they say here, if you're an indie developer, now's your chance to reach out and pitch a new platformer. So around 52 minutes and 51 seconds into this YouTube video, Wade mentions that they'd keep their eye open and listen to a good indie platforming team that might be interested in reviving it. Moving on, and we're talking about Nintendo, and Nintendo has just released Switch Firmware version 17.0.0. with their update notes saying general stability improvements that enhance the user experience. Anyways, here Oatmeal Dome took a look into this update and they've made some changes to the bad words list. Thought and re are no longer allowed. And there are some various censor evading slang for testicles in Japanese that were blocked. and other offensive terms were added for all languages. But that's not all. Michael has noticed that Nintendo has changed how they do some things under the hood that have a dramatic impact on memory savings, for example, the kernel. Now, Michael will be digging into this one further, and I'm kind of wondering here if Nintendo is starting to position things for the next version of the Switch, or they're trying to optimize their current Switch. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about Nintendo, last up here we're quickly talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on Android with Strato. Strato has not released just yet, but it's currently being tested and currently being developed. If you wanted to see some testing, I'll drop a link to Easy on the Eyes YouTube channel in the description below. There's 4 videos here that are at least 4 minutes long showing some gameplay. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.